never be perfect, never, never, never. But if you're happy, then, and I think we are human, we can adapt to some little imperfections, so sometimes we just have to be a little bit patient and it works.
Can you tell us some words about your work with Yulia Lipnitskaya and Maya and Alex?
My work with Lipnitskaya and Maya and Alex.
Yes.
So we worked...
Was it easy? Or...
Was it easy? It was very easy.
I mean.
Yeah, it was very easy. I mean, with Yulia, it was very easy because I showed her. We had a couple of ideas for music, and I showed her this piece of music, and I told her that I can see her skate to this music, and she put on the ice, and she skated, and she understand that it's a good choice for her. So she was very happy with that, and then I showed her a couple of things, and it was actually very nice to work with her. She was very sweet, she's very talented, she's a very sweet girl. Sometimes I had to push her a little bit out of her comfort zone, but at the end I think in choreography the most difficult point is to choose the right music. That's a very, very, very tricky point, because you can make the best choreography or whatever you can do, but if it's not the right music, you don't feel it. And that's for me the most important. And you can also use the best choreographer, but if you don't feel it, it's very difficult. So I think I was trying to make her feel comfortable with the music, comfortable with the movement, and that's always what I try to do, because that's what I was taught when I was working with Salome. She doesn't, it's not like it has to be like this. It's something that I have to feel. I have to feel the music, I have to understand the music, I have to understand the spirit of the music, I have to move with the, I don't know, with what I feel. Of course there are some rules, and there are some, if you lift your arms, you cannot lift your arms. So, but in fact, when you have the education, and I think Yulia, she has this education, and you can make her understand the feeling, then she can use the choreography to express herself, and that's what we were working on. And the same with Maya and Alex. But with Maya and Alex, what is interesting is, as ice dancers, they have a lot of education on how to move, and that's, ice dancers, they move so well, and they know how to listen to the music, and they're already aware of all of this, so it goes much faster, so we can work on more details. And it was an exhibition number, so you don't have the rules to restrict yourself, it's freedom, and two people together is always more interesting, because you have an interaction between two persons. When you're by yourself, you have to give more, because you have to give it to everybody. When you're just the two, you can just, with one eye contact, there is already something happening, yes? So it was very fun to work with them, and we will probably work together again. I hope with Yulia also.
What other choreographies did you do for this season?
I did Dennis both programs, and I worked a lot in Japan. I did Satoko's exhibition, I did Shoma's exhibition. I worked with all the Japanese skaters, mostly with Kanako and with Shoma. I was 1 week with them, and we worked on their programs, especially the kind of Latino program from Shoma, and both programs of Kanako. And yeah, it was it's always interesting to choreograph, but it's also interesting to just work on something that already exists and make it more sharp, more alive. I love to do retouch also. It's something that sometimes the skater has always the same inputs, and when you can just give them a little bit of sense and a little bit of other tastes, then it shows immediately. So yeah, even though I don't want to, I'm not there to change anyone's work, but I'm just to make something more tasty, you know. Sometimes you're like, maybe I should put a little bit more salt, and then it's good.
You have quite a lot of experience of working with skaters now. What are the main differences between working with children and adults? Like, how can you motivate, how can you explain, how can you make them do it?
So it's also like I was saying about the material. When you're an adult, you're used to some things, and you have habits, and you have worked all your life in a certain way. So I think it's very difficult to change something. It's possible, but it takes more time. With a child, they are open, and they are. You can shape them easily. It's not easy, but easier. It's easier to sharp someone that has less experience. And then it's even more important to shape them in a good way, because that's when they take all this. Oh wow! Wow, that is so beautiful. It's Carolina.
Wants to go to Bratislava.
Carolina wants to go to Bratislava. Yes.
So, what do you think about Carolina changing her practicing with machine now?
I think it's actually very. She always wanted. I remember, when was it? Alexei Michin came to Champéry a few years ago when I was working with Elisabetta and with Alexander Petrov, and Carolina was there to make choreography, and already at this point she was taking some inputs from Alexei, and we both agree that he has very interesting way of teaching the technique. So I think for her it's a good thing to learn more from him. He has a lot of knowledge, and I think she definitely benefits from this knowledge that he gives her. I'm happy that she follows his advices.
How is your work with Dennis doing?
It's going well. The injury reminds me a lot of my situation back in 2008-9. In my case, because I was a bit older, it took a lot of time. In his case, it got, thank God, and I touched wood, it got smoothly. We did the right thing at the right moment. He spent a couple of weeks in Toronto with Marla, and I think it was the right thing for him to do, to focus really on how to make the mechanics of his body work, so he will not get this injury for all his life. Of course, it will take time until he's strong enough to be where I want him to be, but it's a process of long years. I mean, I'm still working on my hips, and I'm much stronger than 7 years ago, but I know that there is still improvement. So for him, he's 17, like I said, he can still shape himself quick. But for the older he gets, so it was good that we did that now, because the older he gets and the harder it is to fix such an injury, because it's a mechanical problem which causes the problem in his muscle. So it was important to do it now, I think, not to waste too much time for the future. Now we started to jump a couple of weeks ago, and he's fine. He has nice programs. He's doing well. He's happy. He's practicing like I want. He reminds me so much about me when I was 17. It's crazy. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I was really like this. Oh no! Wake up! It's true. Sometimes you're just 17 and you think that you know everything, and